Welcome to the network of Networth video podcast, having high-level conversations with high-level individuals. I'll be your host, Christopher Day. Enjoy the show. Hey out there, YouTube land. Today we'll be speaking with Dom Bradley, a financial advisor and counselor. Stay tuned and listen to how you can secure your financial future with Dom.
Last 15 or so years. So it's really just learning how to be a better person. And then how can I help other people grow? How can I help other people grow? Which is impact. I want to be able to positively impact people, every single person that I meet, to the greatest possible degree that I can. That's my goal. So that's me.
That's a beautiful answer. So what brought you into the world of financing and coaching and being an advisor? I mean, other than just the desire to help, like what, brought you here in life? How did that happen for you?
And honestly, yeah, it seems super obvious, but it really was genuinely just a desire to help. I remember being from the time I was yay big, I knew I wanted to help people. I remember my original career choice would have been in the medical field. I was going to be either a doctor or a nurse because I just wanted to help people. And the fact they make good money was just a plus, right? But I remember I stumbled into the realm of finance in the insurance industry now 10 years, almost 11 years ago. And it really was a stumble. So an individual, a lady I was dating at the time, was involved in the industry at the time as well. And when we got together, I was kind of exposed to the work. And I started working in the same company that she was partnered with as well. And we would go and meet with clients and I have the opportunity to really see hey, people's lives can really be positively impacted by the product or in this industry. And it wasn't just getting someone some kind of life insurance. It was really sitting down with someone and figuring out, hey, what are you looking to do? Or what's your long-term goal? And how can we educate you perhaps, or how can we set you up to get you there?
Sure. I have to stop you right there because I do talk to a lot of people and this sounds like something that you may have some expertise in. That's why I want you to speak about it. Out of the people that you speak with, what are the most common goals that they have in mind? I know there's only really a few things that they actually want to do with their money. So what are those most common things that you come across from average Joe?
So I would say, of course, everyone wants to be able to retire comfortably, right? Everyone wants to actually be able to, feel like they could retire in the first place and that they could do so comfortably. So once they retire, they stay retired. But often one of the things I hear is just one of the most exciting things for me is the one they don't say immediately. It's as you continue to open up, if you have the right conversation, they're like, that's what I want. And that's generational wealth. They want to be able to put their kids or their kids in a better position than they were themselves, because most people recognize that they didn't have the literacy, they didn't have the knowledge in the first place to be where they wanted to be. So if they can get there, how can they get their kids to be even better off? That's Certainly. The next one.
Now, what would you say to, the average working American who may believe that they don't even make enough money to need a financial planner or advisor? That's something that I personally have gone through for years. I mean, I was in these networking groups where I would come across, planners and advisors, and I really just thought, my little old job doesn't even pay me enough to need that. And as I've gotten older and I've started to talk to them, I find that I was wrong, but I would like to hear from someone who's in the profession exactly how you could help average Joe who makes regular Joe paycheck.
Right. So I think, first of all, thank you so much for asking that question, because I think it's that's so huge. The moment you said it, just the look on my face, I'm like, oh my God. Right. It really is true. I personally would say every single person should work with some form of financial planner or advisor. It's especially important, I think, if you're making over $50,000 a year, or if you have $50,000 in liquid capital. Right, and you're looking to know, hey, what can I do with this capital? How can I make this money work for me? But the reason why I say everyone should is because the reality is in this, in our environment, that financial literacy isn't commonly taught. So if you recognize that finance is a language, and if you recognize that not only that first of all, that there is a money game and that you're playing it, you probably don't know the rules. The same way you go to an attorney for anything that has to do with the law, you should be going to a financial advisor or a planner or someone in that profession about finance. because that's the only way you collapse time frames and get the information that you need to know. Either you study yourself or you go to someone who's done the study and say, hey, teach me what I don't know so I can get ahead.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. So now I've got to say, so for your average client, what does it actually cost them to do business with a service like yours? I mean, because I know that there's a cost and there's a fee that's it's incurred. It's not like they just give you your money and you stick it somewhere for them and it grows. There are costs and fees, structured around it. How does that look?
So for me, and one of the things you asked me about previously was like, what does it be to be a finance coach, right? Which is a little bit different for every person. So I would consider myself relatively unique, part of a very small demographic in the space, in that, honest to goodness, at least for the preliminary, just for the basic service, I don't charge anything. Like and that's how I give. So I'm a big person who believes in giving first, and providing value before you ask for anything, right? And so what that looks like for me as a finance coach, I said not put everyone in the box, is for me a finance coach, or the way I operate as a finance coach, is somewhere between a financial planner, or marrying a financial planner with an actual coach, right? So if you've ever played sports, you kind of know, right, what a coach does.
Sure.
They usually have a plan for you, but they really push you, they hold you accountable, and there's a lot more, for lack of better terms, handholding involved. It's
Sure.
it's more intimate. It's much more involved.
Sure, you give them the action steps, you walk with them play by play and say, this is what you need to
Right.
work on, this is what you need to improve on, this is how you actually can succeed, and here's the actionable plan.
Exactly.
Certainly.
So typically with a financial planner, you might get that first bit, like you might get the plan. And for people who aren't familiar, like some common numbers that you can utilize depending on what you're looking to do for yourself is the average financial planner will typically charge somewhere around between $200 and $400 per hour for financial planning. So if you meet on a weekly basis, you meet on a monthly basis, and you're paying about $200 per instance. Right. And if you want to get a full financial plan, that can run you somewhere in the neighborhood of about $2,000 to $2,500. That's fairly common, right? But in that instance, typically what's going to happen is, depending on your relationship or how often you're meeting with your planner, it's typically, okay, let's see what you've got, and then, okay, here's what you do. I'll check back in with you in a month to see if it's working.
And that's kind of the coaching part, right? Where you'll strategize with them and get with them and say, okay, well, this works, this isn't, this is maybe more suited for you, maybe this isn't.
Right, exactly. So that's where the coaching element comes in for me, is allowing really for that hand-holding element, where if you need someone to help you establish those best practices, if you are working on changing up how you handle your budget, there's someone who can say, okay, how are things going? Is this working? How can we adjust it if we need to ensure you stay on track?
Right. Now,
and then go from there.
What type, or what amount of or variety of products do you have to work with? Like, are you guys brokering for 1,000 different companies? Do you only deal with one or two? How does that work for you and your business?
So I work with a number of different companies as well, and to meet a variety of different needs. So you kind of asked, like, what kind of clients do I work with? Right now, I'm really making a solid push to really just help Middle America, to really help the people who get the least amount of service because they feel there's either a high bar to entry, or they really just don't know how to go about moving forward and don't have the capital to work with some of these standard traditional financial planners. So, but I work with, while there's my focus there, I work with both them and small businesses, right? So we can do things on the terms of investing. We have also like services for whether you're on the family or the business side of things, for like legal support, things like that. But also, of course, the different annuity options and whatnot to really kind of set yourself up comfortably for that retirement and things along the way. So we have a variety of different products we can help you with. I dare say it's fairly difficult to find something that we don't offer that might really be necessary for somebody.
Okay, now, so just to narrow things down for our listening, audience out there, if it was on the family side, on the personal side, what is your number one avatar? Like, who's your most common person to come in that you want to help, or that you can help the most? Who's that one type of person with that need that your go-to bread and butter every day?
Okay, so like my go-to number one, I focus like my personal special emphasis, right, would be on our men and women of service. So whether that be military or civil services, they have my heart. I have a lot of family who is military, and so as such, I try to do, like, I could not serve in the military the way I wanted to. So I just took a pivot and I decided to serve our military instead. I want to serve them as much as possible.
Beautiful sentiment.
Outside of our military men and women, then I really try to service our BIPOC community, which would be our Black, Indigenous people of color, right? And the reason why I do that is not because I feel like they're just like the better client customer, but I look at the statistics, and realistically speaking, it seems like that's the demographic of people who need the support the most. And so that's where I feel I can make the greatest impact. So that's what I'm helping. In terms
Certainly.
of outside of like income wise or things like that, honestly, to be as inclusive as I can be, if you're making anywhere from, let's say, like if you were making, honestly, I would say I could work with anyone making as little as about 35,000 a year up.
Okay.
Right? But bread and butter would be like, I say 35 and say 60.
That's great. See, that's the perfect avatar for you to describe to me, especially if this goes, that clip goes out on air exactly the way it is. You've got people that will, that they can see, do I fit that criteria? Is this the person that I need to go to work with? Because am I the person he's looking for? Now, when it comes to the business side of it, you say small business. First of all, when you say small business, what size, do you generally deal with? And what is your number one bread and butter service to them that they really, they need help with, that you like to provide?
Awesome question. So in terms of what I would work with on the business side of things, size-wise, typically 50 employees or less. It's really supporting the people on the ground still looking to build up and expand and grow, right? So if you're listening and you have, say, like anywhere from like 0 to 15 employees, cool. You're who I'm talking to. You're who I want to be able to serve. Because I recognize that as multiple successful people have said, usually the biggest hurdle is going from 0 to 1. And then once you get from 1, you scale up quicker from that. So I want to help those people right there who need support the most.
Oh, sure. Be on the ground, maybe. Help them get there. Get there, and they'll remember you when they need the next hurdle.
Yeah. Like, let me take care of you right where it matters the most. Just getting started, getting people. And then usually my bread and butter service for them is I actually offer what I call financial wellness workshops. So especially for the individuals with, like I said, 50 or fewer employees, one of the things that's not super accessible for small businesses are wellness programs like that. So typically Fortune 500 companies and above can afford to offer certain programs where they'll offer literacy, advisory, and things like that for their employees that they might have to pitch into, or they may just come complimentary because you got in lucky. You got in one of the big companies.
Sure.
I have found a way to offer that to businesses in such a way that allows them to increase the employer-employee relationship, because now it's not like, oh, I'm struggling, but there's no support at my job. I have to go look elsewhere.
Certainly.
And there's also the element of, well, hey, my business, my job, my employer offers me something that I probably couldn't get if I were to go somewhere else around the same, like at a parallel.
Sure. It's an added benefit of being, being with the
Absolutely.
company. So okay.
Now, they may not know.
What does that program look for and I say the smaller side of business, right? So somebody that has that, 1 to 15 employees, what does that program look like for them? Is this an online program? Is this an in-person workshop? What does that look like? And what is the cost structure, if you don't mind?
No, not at all. So in terms of what it looks like, it can be both in person and it can be virtual. It can be either way, depending on where the business is located and what the business needs are, right? So personal, for example, like I said, I'm in Arizona, I'm in Phoenix specifically. So to all of our Phoenix people, hello, and I hope you're loving this sunny weather as much as I am. And to everyone not in Phoenix, well, I love you guys too.
Right? Well, Texas thanks you for that.
Like Texas might know a little something about that. I've spent some time in Houston, so I love our Texas people also. But telling people about what the weather's like in Houston, like in Phoenix, when they're outside of here, is usually asking for a fight. Right? It's just like being in Florida. But what that looks like I said, depending on where you're located, it usually will involve honestly just giving the business the opportunity to ask their employees or to provide their employees with like quick questionnaires. Hey, would you be interested, first and foremost, if we could offer this to you guys? Would you be interested in getting more information about either life insurance, how to handle, tackle debt and eliminate debt, how to invest properly, and ultimately just be more financially secure? And then from there, we'll have that workshop. We can kind of cover those things, right? So it's entirely voluntary. And then for the people who actually get value out of that and want to expand, we actually can work one-on-one, either myself or one of my team members can do that with them. So that's
Fantastic.
how we do that.
Okay, well,
Now,
Dom, I
in
tell
terms
you,
of
you've
cost,
actually you told us a lot about what you do so far, but you haven't told us a whole lot about how we can get a hold of you. How can people actually, talk to you? How can they get a hold of your company? How can they hire you? That's what the deal is. How can they hire you to save their financial future, Dom?
so you can find me on Facebook. Honestly, by just searching me up by Dom Bradley, I am there and easily to find. I'm also on LinkedIn, and which I'm not sure if I provided you the information for. I hope that I did.
Yeah,
Uh,
all of the links
and
will be provided in the description
awesome,
below the video.
awesome.
Yes, sir. I just like you to say it out loud too. We may have some visually impaired audience out there that may just need to
Mhm.
hear you say it. This is how you get a hold of me.
Absolutely. So you can definitely find me on Facebook by just searching me up by Don Bradley. Find me on LinkedIn under the same. I am on Instagram, though I do not have the presence I should have. There, thankfully, I'm working with someone right now to take care of that. But honestly, but as well, you can actually reach me directly just by shooting me a text or giving me a call. My number is 602-946-1334. Again, that's
Fantastic.
602-946-1334. Lines always open. Mind you, if I don't happen to answer for any reason, I'll probably just in a meeting or another call, but I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I always do.
There you have it, folks. Don Bradley's personal cell phone number, and you can reach him there for his services. Now, don't be crank calling now. Don't be doing that. You call him right and do business with this man, right? So, thank you, Don, for that. Now, I tell you, off of that, I mean, we've been talking about business, and we'll continue to do things, but I got to say, on the human side of some of this,
Yeah.
in your time doing this, can you state one or two, stories or instances of someone that you've helped in a more profound way than others? I mean, it's easy to just help somebody get something going, but something where you've actually seen some return from somebody who really needed it, that came out in a way that wasn't expected, maybe?
Yes, actually, yes. And two instances come to mind like immediately, and they make my heart so happy. They are so happy. So I want to share this with you guys, with all of you, because I speak on both sides of the spectrum. Of someone who's, for example, working like maybe paycheck to paycheck, for example, not making a ton of money, but they want to do more. They want to change their lives. And then I was working with another client who actually has a good amount of money to be able to invest. They inherited some money, they were able to work. So on the first, I was sitting down with a young lady out in Washington, right? And this young lady has, I believe, now a 4-year-old son. And she honestly been going through just some struggles. Family didn't necessarily have a lot of money. I'm sure a lot of us can relate with that background. But family didn't have a whole bunch of money. Didn't have a whole lot in terms of like skill or way to really kind of scale her life at the time. But she knew for sure she wanted to give a better life to her son. It's like, hey, I'm gonna work my butt off to get where I need to be because my son deserves better. I want to give him the life that I couldn't have for myself. So I was like, okay, well, awesome. I want to sit down and help you. Let's figure out how we can do that. So what we did was we actually got together for one of my complimentary like financial plans. So what we did is, and what a complimentary financial plan looks like essentially is we sit down and say, hey, where are you financially right now? Let's lay it all on the table. Don't be shy, because the more you tell me, the more I can help. Let's lay it all on the table. Say, what are you looking at in terms of savings? What are you looking in terms of investing, if you're doing any of that at all? And what's your budget look like day to day? We did all that. I mean, like I said, we did that completely complimentary. I sat down and asked her, okay, well, now we got all the nut, like the meat and potatoes down. Tell me some of your dreams and goals. Like, what do you really want to do? That seems completely out of reach right now. Well, I want to take my son on vacation. Okay, where? I've seen those vacations on like Instagram for like Bali or something. I'm like, awesome, right there, that one, take it. All right, let's do that. How much is that going to cost? In short, we took time to really flesh it out. Say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. This is how much it would be for your son to go to college and things like that. And this is what that would look like. By the end of our conversation, we sat down really for about an hour and a half. That's about how long this meeting took. It didn't take super long at all. At the end of this hour, though, we actually put together a game plan, specific setup, so that, hey, by the time her son was 5, which was the goal, everything on her financial game, like all of the financial game plan things will be on track. But most importantly, we are to pace out, even accounting for inflation. Say, at this point, your vacation for your son, including flight, stay, food, passport, return, everything paid for, possible. When previously she was like, I don't like it was just a dream. It's like, oh, it would be something nice to be able to do. We
That's
figured that out.
amazing. And
She's
you
on
got
track
to
with
make
that.
that real. You got to
Yes.
make a fantasy real for,
Yes.
a struggling, person out there.
Yes, and she's a single mom. So
Sure,
naturally, like mind you, for some context, I was raised by a single mother as well.
sure.
So that's it close to my heart. I'm like, okay, well then obviously I got like I know what that's like.
That's
I
it.
know what that's like.
Right. So
So
you
we were
helped her,
still,
not only just gain some freedom and a little bit of luxury in life, but it also helps
yeah,
her dignity and respect for what she's doing, in her life. So many times when you are in a situation where you feel like you're struggling, it does take a blow to the ego, a blow to the old dignity and pride. And when you're, you have to be humble. You have to humble yourself. You really do. And once you go through the process of defeating that, it's such an empowering moment, and you got to be the person who guided her, to that, not only to that, but past that, and then into her fantastical dream that she, fleshed out with you. So I think that's
yeah.
amazing. That is
Oh
amazing.
man, it was such a warming feeling. I was on a cloud, and like I said, that was something we started off complimentary, but to me, those are the moments that mean the most. And
Sure.
it's like it's not about the income; it's about the impact. The impact is the most important thing. It feels so good. So, so
That's amazing.
that was the first one. The second story, which I can actually make fairly short, was rather recent, in fact. So I went out on a date. It was a rather lovely situation with my lady, and we went out to brunch. Okay, so we went out to brunch here in town, and I met a gentleman by chance at brunch. And so this gentleman, he coming to a bit of money. He's doing pretty well for himself. He manages some things online to keep the income coming in, and he's a young guy. He's like 23,
Hmm.
young guy, but he has a 3-year-old daughter. And he's like, no, I just want to be able to take care of my daughter. So we had a conversation just to kind of see just kind of see like kind of what he's going, because he wants to be taking his daughter on a vacation to Hawaii pretty recently.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, pretty soon. He wants to be able to take her in about a year or so. And he has everything already lined out. But what we were talking about is, was like, he said he doesn't work with a financial planner. He doesn't work with an advisor or anything like that. And I asked him why. He says, I want to be able to learn my own. I want to be able to figure it out. I'm like, okay, well, as a man, I can appreciate that. There's a certain degree of accomplishment we like to have. Like there's something we get out of struggle, just a little bit. Like I don't like being able to
So,
say I did it. Sure. Like, but at the same time, I mean, really, how much are you like how much are you willing to risk, really? How far are you really trying to go on your own, and how much are you willing to lose in the process?
that's that stupid tax. That's what it is. That's that stupid tax, man. Uh-huh.
All of that, and or similarly, it's said really well that the biggest expense you have in life is the knowledge and skills that you don't have.
Beautifully said.
That's
Beautiful.
what it was. So I was like, okay, well, what happens if you don't kind of get to what you're looking to do at the end of the day? He says, well, I mean, I guess I'd be putting things for my daughter and kind of that life at risk. It's like, are you really willing to settle for that? He said, no. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give you a play then. And I'm gonna share this play with everybody out there so that you all can investigate it, think about it for yourself. I gave this, it's like, okay, I'm gonna give you a play, and in 3 moves, I'm gonna help you set up generational wealth for you and your daughter. In 3 moves. Let's call it 3.5. 3 moves, okay? 3.5 moves, you set up generational wealth. I told him, like, hey, for anyone who's out here right now, between the age of like 18 and 25, especially pay attention to the first bit. I said, hey, if you put $250 a month, just $250 a month away every month for the next 8 years, you'll retire a millionaire. Now, when I say put away, I mean invest it. If you're using any kind of investment vehicle, there are several out there. To take time to do some research, or feel free to reach out to myself or anyone who's actually informed in this area. But if you can get around 12% rate of return, 12% rate of return, which is not ridiculous at all, you do that for 8 years and you completely stop. So you start 25, by 32, I'm sorry, 33. Completely stop. By the time you're 65, you will retire with over $2 million in the bank.
Ooh, and
You're a
that's
million.
$250 a month for 8
And
years. You
250.
do that.
Yep.
Yeah, on a
250.
12% interest. Look at that.
Yep. So if you do something as simple as invest this 250 while your expenses are at their lowest, and therefore the income to expense ratio is at its best it's probably going to be, you'll set yourself up for life. Like you're done. Let's say I ran him through that, showed him the number. He said, "What happens if I do 60? 60 what? $60?" He said, "No, 60 grand." Cool. I said, well, "Here's what you do. First and foremost, you set up a trust. That's move number one in this game.
That's it.
First, set up a trust. Anyone and everyone can set up a trust, and it's not super expensive to do, especially if you take the time to do the research. Okay, it's very manageable and has a tremendous impact and gains for you. First, set up a trust. Second, set up a custodial account for your daughter. If you have a child, right, under the age of 18, then you can set up a custodial account for them, and so they have something ready for them down the line. Okay, set up a custodial account and put that in the hands and have the trust manage that. Okay, so when they turn, and then take your 60 grand again and put that in the account. Make sure they're getting about that same 12% interest. If you do that, this is what I told that gentleman. You do that, in 15 years when she turns 18, there's over $300,000 in that account. Her college is paid for. At 18.
Wow.
College is done. You do nothing else. You put one investment in, make sure it's managed.
She can go to Harvard. I mean, look, most expensive tuition, that's $320,000, man. You know what I mean?
She can. But best case, let's assume they do things smart, right? The average 4-year college right now is about $20,000 for tuition per year. So let's just say it's $30,000, 120 grand for 4 years of college. That's 120 grand out. It's 200 grand still left. When she comes out of college, there'll be more money to get.
It doesn't sound like Harvard's such a great deal, does it?
It doesn't. Right?
I love to hear that out of the mouth of the financial advisor. I say it all the time, but
I think higher education is a fantastic idea for anyone who wants it, if the profession you're going into requires it.
Yes, sir.
If it doesn't require it, you're probably better off going to some kind of trade school.
That's it.
Or an internship. Get the experience.
That's it.
You don't have the experience anyway. Take the experience over the book, because you'll get the book in the experience, depending on the profession.
Yes, right? Sir.
You do that. College is paid for. When she turns 25, she gets a little bit of money through the trust for her first house. That's paid for. When she has her first child, the trust rinses, repeats. Sets up a custodial account for the daughter. Same thing. That's it. You took 3 moves and everything's done.
There you go, folks. You have heard it directly from the mouth of Don Bradley, financial advisor and planner and coach extraordinaire. How to build generational wealth, how to set your children up for success, how to get college taken care of and paid for with minimal investment, right? And how to build a little bit of financial security for yourself. So, Dom, I tell you what, it's been fantastic hearing, all about you and your business and how you can actually help the common folk. Before we depart on this call, because I have kept you on here about half an hour, are there any departing words that you would like to share with our audience in particular?
Absolutely. Start now. And by start now, I mean virtually anything. If you're thinking about working with a financial professional, start now. If you're thinking about saving for the future or for that big dream, start now. If you're not sure if now is the right time, please start now. Yes, but the best time to plant a tree really was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your time, Dom. It has been a pleasure hearing from you, hearing, your words of motivation, inspiration, and your plan for financial success for Average Joe.